Hey everyone, welcome to our last session, session 6. Today we're going to go over putting that avatar that you worked on into some action, and then we're going to do what I think a lot of people are here to do, which is learn how to ask your intuition questions. So far we've been tapping in, starting to notice, understanding what intuition is. I think we're all here because we want to use it more proactively. So guys have done the work, we've done the past work, the back work on, identifying our beliefs, understanding how they can influence the intuitive voice. So I'm going to, as the parting gift, give you the access to how to actually ask questions and ask them very clearly, and make sure that as you're communicating with your future self, your intuition, whatever you want to call it, that you're really concise and clear in your questions so that your answers make some sense. So last session, we went into some more depth on parts work. We've facing and loving our fears, even recognizing that there is a good type of fear and kind of running towards that, or at least getting the framework to. And then introduce this concept of a future self avatar. So really building off of that future self story. Told you I wasn't going to leave you hanging and just rewriting the same story over and over again. We really talked about the two distinct benefits that the future self avatar offers. The first is that it allows you to practice, right? It allows you to practice how you want to show up, how you'd act in that aspect, in that role of your life. And then the other is that it takes away a level of fear. So when you walk into a situation, you're walking in as the future you, with all of the confidence, the beliefs, the experience that this self has, and they're the ones showing up instead of you. So they're kind of like your shield, right? I think what we all ultimately fear in a lot of these situations is the judgment of others. So if at the end of the day, the future self is walking in instead of you, you kind of have this buffer of, a buffer around you, and they're the ones that are going to be going in for you. So we're going to talk today about how to shift into this future self avatar, choosing a particular scene. So I'll use a particular scene. We'll talk about ways to get back to the future self. So after you start working in this world and you've created not just this avatar, but avatars for all of the various roles in your life that you play. Remember, we play a parent, we play an employee, or an owner of a business. We have all of these roles we play in our life. So we're going to start working on avatars for all of them. So eventually, once you do this, you have a really good feel for your future self. You're kind of just going to be at any moment able to drop in and act from this future self. And then you kind of get to this point where it's like, oh, who's the future self? Or am I really the future self already? And so you will start to notice, like with any habit, that like you'll do really, really well. And then you might start to slip back a little. So we're going to talk about ways to get back on track if you start to notice yourself kind of slipping back into that first version of you, if you will. And then we'll wrap up the course. Then I'm going to teach you the what I already talked about, asking questions, asking clear questions, getting that guidance from your future self / your intuition. So, and then we'll wrap up, and I'm going to ask for your impressions live as long as we have time. I always think we're going to have time, and then we never do. So if we don't get to it live, I'm going to send around a survey, and I really, really, really appreciate you completing that. It's so important to me to know what was clear, what was really, really helpful, what was new to you guys, and then what maybe could use a little more explanation, a little more depth. So I will absolutely ask those questions and appreciate you giving me your feedback either here live or via the survey. So let's talk about putting your avatar into action. So first, does anybody want to share their avatar? We talked about coming up with a name, coming up with an AI image. Does anybody want to share what they came up with? I feel like I'm in school. It's okay if you don't.
I am happy to share the image, my avatar image that you introduced on Tuesday. Hold on one moment. Let me see if I can do this smoothly. So I will stop the share, and just so you guys can see how fun and powerful this can be. So here I am. I just playing with it in Canva for a moment. So this is the magical avatar that the app we shared came up with. That is my future self in a gorgeous sparkly cocktail dress on a beautifully lit stage with a microphone in my hand, looking, I'm glowing, I look powerful, I'm smiling, I'm speaking, because that is where I see myself. That is my future self, is I'm leading people, I'm teaching people, I'm speaking to people. I've spent all this time going through school, getting all these degrees, amassing this wealth of knowledge. And, my future self is gonna repurpose all of that hard work and pay it forward by sharing with people and sharing my story and educating people in communications, because that's what I do. So, and this is Mighty, just like Mighty Mouse, because I'm short, just like a mouse, but I have a big personality, as you can see in this picture. So this is my future self avatar, and I'm telling you, we're only a year or two away from it. If I keep working with Brenda, that's for sure.
Total pitch. Love it. Okay. So I know that Samantha, you're going to work on yours. I'm checking the chat. And I know that Tiffany contacted me, some of these sites at first they were free, or they'd let you in for like a session to test it out. Some of them are a couple bucks. You don't have to buy the subscription. I think some of them you pay like $20, and it may or may not be worth it to you, but just something fun to do. And then how about your capes? Did you guys come up with your object, your either your object or your action? I see you smiling, Samantha. You've got to have something. It's okay. So yeah, so that was the other part of it, was write your story and then have, your cape, that thing that's going to be that trigger, that identifying thing that drops you into your action, into your start for your avatar. So how did everybody like this exercise? Was it good? Was it easy to do? Did it make sense? Was it a little easier than the future day? Some people have an easier time with it than the perfect day. Some people, it's a little more challenging, but did you enjoy it?
Oh, I can unmute. Can I help? No, I just haven't had time, but I plan on doing like the actual avatar. But what really helped me, because I was like trying to write out my future self, but it helped me to do a vision board first, and then write out like my future self with all the different images and stuff that I sent you my vision board, and I think it's so pretty. I put it on my computer, and it's my background on my phone now. So I guess that's kind of like a action.
Okay. No, yeah, totally. No, it is easier. That's what we talked about, put your avatar, go do your avatar in one of the apps and put her on there too. So
I'm going to do that next.
Nice. All right. Well, good. So yeah, this is something you can continue to develop. I know, just like with the future self story, you're going to continue to make this story your own, about this avatar in this part of your life. So now that you have the avatar, you have their traits, their characteristics, their beliefs, you have their story around who they really are in this part of your life and how they show up in this arena of your life, in this role of your life. We need a way to drop into this avatar, to act from this avatar. So these are things that you do ahead of time in preparation for an anticipated event. So you're taking your avatar with you. So for example, let's pretend that you created a work avatar and you have a conversation with your boss coming up about a promotion or a raise or a speech that you have for work in front of a huge crowd. That's one of the times that you would use this, this scenario, using your future self avatar. Maybe you created a daughter avatar or a son avatar, and the event is that you have a difficult conversation coming up with your mom. This is a great way. I've done this with a client. It's a great way to practice some of the hard things that you're going to have to say, and showing up exactly how you want to say, and show up. Again, it's that practice, so that you're not just stuck in the moment. So you're going to work on this technique ahead of time, most of the time. Eventually you'll get so good that you'll be able to drop in kind of on the fly. But really what we're working with now is we're practicing this ahead of time, just like the basketball player would be practicing visualizing, making the basket from 3-point line, 100 times in a row, just visualizing it ahead of the game, right? They're not going to do it as they're sitting there in the game. So the whole idea is to practice this ahead of your event, so that when you get in the moment, you have this experience and this confidence to show up, and you'll pick up your cape, right? You'll do your thing. You'll just do a really quick run through in your head, and you'll be there, and you'll be in that role as your avatar. So the entire thing that we're going to work on, it's really truly about visualization. So I'm going to use the example as we go along to make it more clear. I'm going to pretend that I'm somebody who's come to this course and I had a lot of questions around my career, And, you know, I'm deciding like, I want to move up. I feel very stuck, but I've done all of the work around my beliefs, etc. And now I am ready to talk to my boss. I have all of my evidence. I'm ready to talk to my boss about there's a role that's open and it's a big promotion and I'm perfect for the role. So, I've done all of the back work here and I've created my character, and now I'm going to put my future self avatar into that characteristic. So into that scene, sorry. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a quiet place without interruptions where you can spend about 5, 10, 15 minutes. Grab your cape. That's kind of the first step. Always kind of have this with you as your first cue. Remember, we're just creating cues, kind of like a habit. So when you grab your cape, you are grabbing your cue that you are now in character. And so you're dropping in is what we call it. So then we're going to use a centering technique. This can be, I love the one we did earlier in the course. I am not about spending a lot of time in meditation, guys, if I'm being serious. Maybe I'll get around to it, you know, one of these days and I'll find some super big benefit to it. But at this point, that really quick centering technique that we did together really, really fits for this. You know, all we're doing is cultivating inner awareness. We are trying to calm and center our mind, not quiet it per se, but just come inward and just be able to be very aware of what's going on inside of us. Because we're going to basically be putting up a movie screen. So we want it to be quiet. So what you're next going to do, so you've done your centering technique, you're now feeling grounded, reread what you wrote for the avatar. You want to really start to get the level of, you know, you've written about the level of confidence that they have. You've made a full accounting of everything that they've done. So let's pretend that I am this character. My avatar is getting ready to go in to talk to the boss. So I'm picturing the scene. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reread my story about this avatar and how they show up at work. So I've written about this level of confidence that I have. I've done a full accounting of everything that I've done for this company. I speak clearly, matter-of-factly. I make eye contact when I show up at work. I'm calm. I clearly outline my rationale. I share ideas and I know how valuable I am to the company. I have this presence that exudes, I know what I'm worth, and it's time that you see it as well. And I believe that I'm the very best person to take this role to the next level and to deliver. So nobody is better suited for this role than me. These are all the things that I've written about this character going into this situation. So I have this feeling of how she shows up, what she thinks of herself. So now that you're feeling this, you've reread this, you're starting to feel what it's like, you're really going to put your avatar into the scene. Usually easiest if you have your eyes closed, but you know, whatever works for you. You're going to start to picture your avatar there. So you're going to start to develop the scene around your character. So the objects start to kind of drop in around you. The lighting, the mood, the feeling, really set the stage. Who else is there? Just start to see it kind of pop up, and you're picturing what is in the room around you. So back to my example, I'm in my boss's office. I see myself walking to the office, walking in. I picture her standing there. She stands up to greet me. I'm picturing all of the decor in her office. She has some plants on the table. I know exactly where the cushy chair is that I'm going to be sitting in. So I feel myself sitting down into the chair. Again, details. They matter, guys. So we're trying to get all of the level of details that we can about our surroundings. And then we're going to imagine how it feels to be there. How are they showing up? What are they feeling? What's going on in their mind? So in my example, I'm picturing and I'm feeling that I'm calm and that my heart is steady and that I'm confident, I'm prepared. I know what I'm going to say. I've practiced this. I already know what I'm going to say. I have the answers. I have the reasons. I sit tall in my chair. I'm leaning forward a little bit, engaging, but like a certain degree of assertion, right? Like I'm here for it. I have something to say. I'm thinking that I'm here and I'm not asking you, I'm telling you I am perfect for it. It would be ridiculous not to promote me, to give me this job. And I'm here to lay that out for you today. And that's the energy that they're showing up with. So all of these things I'm describing, I'm running through in my head. I'm like, yep, all right, my heart is steady. I am leaning forward. Like I'm seeing my avatar doing this. So then you're going to start to imagine how the scene unfolds. So imagine the conversation. If it's not a conversation, the actions that you're taking. Maybe you're stepping on stage and you're acting, or you're stepping on stage and you are you're singing. Right. So this is generally something that you have a fear around. So imagine what is happening. See the action, see the reaction, see yourself going through the entire scene. Play it all out in your mind. An example of it is also to, not an example, I should say, imagine unfolding exactly as you would like it to, but also realize that this is the real world. We're not trying to create some perfect world. So there are going to be bumps that come up, right? So there are going to be bumps, hiccups. There's going to be questions that, in my example, that the boss brings up, right? That maybe, all right, she's not just going to say yes, right? I'm probably pretty, savvy enough to know that I'm not just going to walk in and get whatever I want. You guys too. So start to anticipate some of those questions, some of those pushbacks, some of the things that may happen to you. You might be on a live webinar and just misread your cues, right? So how do you handle that? So picture it. So again, in the case with the boss, I'm saying the things in the conversation. I'm in my mind. I'm saying the things that I'm going to say. I have the speech prepared. I'm picturing delivering it with confidence. I'm envisioning, I've already thought through the tough questions and the pushback that will come up, and I'm practicing my responses to it. And I'm seeing how I show up as that future self responding to it. So I know my boss and I know the company well enough to know what they're going to ask. So in this scenario, as I've gone through it the week before my meeting, I've practiced and I've come up with more questions, more challenging questions that come up. I keep putting myself into more and more difficult situations. And I keep on seeing how my avatar reacts, because this is my practice place. Then and in my case, I would have nervousness around not having the answer. So my avatar is practicing pausing, taking a step back, and that it's okay to have that pregnant pause, to have that moment to gather your thoughts, right? That is something I generally don't really do in my day-to-day. So my avatar is very much going to be practicing this. And last thing, and the very most important thing, so you're going through your scene, you've got to envision the outcome that you want, guys. We're doing this not because we want our boss to say, okay, thanks for the information. and we picture our avatar going and sitting at their desk for 2 weeks. No. We're going to actually take this to the logical conclusion, which is to see the outcome that we want. So you're seeing yourself achieving exactly what you set out to accomplish, and feel what it would feel like to have this outcome. So in my case, I'm not just going back to my desk and waiting for the call or the inevitable never call. I am visualizing that my boss heard me, acknowledges that what I've said is accurate, like thanks me for my work and says, you are the perfect person for this job. I imagine that she takes it right up the food chain and they come back to me and the role is mine. The role is created for me. The role is mine. And I see myself in the role. So I don't just stop with the conversation. I see myself in the role. I see myself sitting in that new office. I see myself in meetings where I'm running the show and making decisions. So play out the logical conclusion that happens when you show up as your future self avatar. So don't just stop it at, the end of the conversation. Keep on going. Keep on seeing where this takes you and feel where it takes you when you get what you want. So this entire, it's on the screen now. So the entire steps, this is something that you're going to do a bunch of times before the actual event. So spend time, give yourself at least once a day practicing this. Bonus points if you actually act it out. So what do I mean by this? Instead of just going through and allowing the questions, the snags, etc., that come up, just kind of come to you before you go into this visualization, write down the things that would scare you the most. Write down the questions that would scare you the most and make sure that they're a part of what you're acting out. And then the other is to actually just set it, is to actually act it out. So you can have somebody else take the script of the scary questions that you have, and you can converse, and you can have this live with somebody else. I do this with my clients. Or the other is to record yourself, video, audio, whatever it is. You don't even have to watch and listen to it, although there is really a power in watching or hearing yourself showing up in the way that you do when there is no fear. So there's power to listening to it, but don't worry, you can delete it if you don't want to hear, see, whatever. There's really just power to bringing that voice out into the world. There's power to vocalizing it. It's one thing to say it in your head. but it's another to very much practice having those words said through out into the world. It's truly a very different experience and brings a very different energy. So, speaking it into existence, if you will, if we're on the woo side. So, at the time of the actual event, you should be able to grab your cape and then do your quick centering exercise, right? That centering exercise I taught you guys should be able to get through it in about 30 to 60 seconds. So, it's 12:58 and you have your meeting at 1, grab your cape, go into your visualization. At this point, you've practiced it so much, you can see the entire scene in like 5 times fast forward. So you just play it through very quickly. You've seen it happen. And then you walk into your meeting. So I'm hoping that you can see how this can be a very useful tool. So not just in the specific scenario that we created, but as you continue to build your avatar out more and more and more, and you start to build them into these different facets of your life, into, I just talked about my work avatar. I have one for mom. I have one for being a wife. I have one for being a friend. And so you start to build out these avatars and you just get to know how they show up in different scenarios. And it becomes easier and easier as you know this person. You're just really building to your authentic self. And it just becomes easier and easier to drop into that, or to have this like anchor that you drop back into. And you'll start to find eventually it becomes this question of like, okay, where did the line go? Like, is this me? Is this my avatar? Or is this just me now? And that's, that's what we want to accomplish, right? That's the work we're here to do. So for me, like, I still have this stone I've been clinging on to during the course, but I kind of don't need it. Like, I haven't used it the last few times other than to show you guys. Like, I don't need it. I had it the first few times and now I'm rehearsed and I'm here and I might trip on my words, but I show up and I do my thing. And I am where I didn't think I would be 3 weeks ago. And I am where my future self had to step in, but now I'm just me. So now I'm just me. So you can see how this can work in real life. And you don't become your future self all at once. It's not like, one day you're going to wake up and these scenarios that you've envisioned and you've practiced are all just going to come to fruition and you're just going to totally show up as your future self entirely. No, it's going to be bits and pieces. And as you arrive, you're going to find that then you're on to your next iteration of who that future self is. You're going to be like, wow, this is great here. What can I start to do next? So it's a process. There's always a future you. We're always working towards that authentic self, and it doesn't always happen all at once. And the other thing to talk about is that just like kind of with any other habit, right? You're living comfortably for a while as this version of yourself, right? I'm comfortable doing these presentations now. I might notice I start to slip back a bit, right? Maybe I do this in another few weeks and I haven't practiced it and I haven't been doing it. And I'm like, whoa, I'm not showing up. It's normal. Like, we're breaking habits here and building new ones, whether it's habits of perception, right? Our beliefs or our routine. It's why it helps to really build practices into what you're doing. I think it's the next slide, Lona. And things that you can set up to help bring you back. So the cape is truly meant to be in the moment. It's really as you're growing into that specific character. I try not to overuse it too much because you do want it to be something that really signifies I'm going into a bigger event. I want to walk in as this bigger person. Like, it's something to truly, where you have a lot of fear is where I grab my cape. So really what I do is I have more of a ritual that sets the tone for me. So like this entire time I have been, for the last few weeks, as I'm preparing for this, I walk into my office in the morning and I light my candles and I set an intention and I speak as though it has already happened, how great it went, how helpful it was for people, etc. And I spend all of like a minute or two doing this. And that is my routine. And it really gets me back into this space without having to cling on to my cape and try to type at the same time. I'm just kind of in the space. I can move in and out. I'm centered. So it's a quick centering technique to get me back. I can tell a difference when I don't do it. So when I don't do it, I feel a little bit, like I slip a little bit more back. So the routine helps to keep me there as I'm building the new me that I want to be. And it certainly helps if I forgot to do it, to go ahead and do it. So as you grow, it changes. Like I used to sage my office every day. But I really like my energy now. I don't want to chase the energy away. So I shifted away from saging. And now it's candles. It is whatever you guys want it to be. I don't know if anybody else has any ideas of what they might do or what they might use as their recentering technique, maybe a routine that you use around your future self, just to kind of remind you. I don't know if you want to drop it into the chat that we can share them. Sometimes it's helpful to hear what other people use as well. And I'm just going to use this chance to get a drink of water anyway. Okay. I have one other technique that I use that I really, really like. And it's a great segue into our next exercise. When I'm feeling off, I literally just ask my future self what she would do. So I literally just dial her up and ask her what she would do. So I have, an live example of this. So when I was in Washington at the end of August, my favorite place to be, it was a 10-day vacation. I knew going out there, I'm thinking about the vacation already. Yes, I wanted to be a vacation, but I also knew I wanted to build this course. And I knew that I do really well and come up with creative ideas when I'm kind of outside of my space, and especially in nature. So I went out there knowing I wanted to, work on the course. I wanted to eat well. I wanted to make sure I was hiking every day. I just had this vision of what I wanted the vacation to be. Which is a lot of the not falling back into poor habits. I wanted to walk in there being this version of myself. So for the first few days, I was focused. I was dialed in. We were hiking, 8 to 10 miles a day. I would come back. I'd read a book while my husband would cook dinner. Don't take that wrong. It is his favorite thing to do. It's not like he's just my chef, but that is what he likes to do on vacation. So I'm reading a book, he's cooking, it's these healthy meals. It was just really, really, really ideal. And then just over time, probably the 5th or 6th day, stuff started to creep back in. Maybe, the weather wasn't perfect, so we didn't go for a hike or didn't go for a long hike. Some junk food started to sneak back in, more time on social media instead of reading. So in and of themselves, like not the worst things in the world, but I just started to notice I was kind of off. And so I was like, okay, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? You teach this stuff, you should know. So I go into town and I grab a candle and I grab like just a bracelet. So a bracelet of stones. It's my thing, right? It's just, in case you can't tell, candles, stones, my thing. And so I grabbed this at the store. I hiked down to my absolute favorite spot in Washington. Like we were so lucky to be there. It's on this huge rocky river and it's just at the end of a waterfall, and it's super busy at the waterfall. But if you hike down just a little bit further around the bend, there's nobody there, and you can just sit on these huge rocks with like this gorgeous scenery and just this soothing sound. So grab my candle, grab that. And I was just there and I just set the intention. I was like, what am I supposed to do? Help me get back to you. Help me get back to where I want to be. What do we do? And the answer was really clear. And it was really, really simple too. The answer was clear and simple. So I spent my time when I came back and, I did my little routine with the candle and I sat outside, made myself like a really cool mocktail and sat outside watching the sunset over the mountain. And I'm telling you, the entire course outline here just flowed. So I'm not saying it's going to be super magical like that every single time you guys do it, but it is a power of having a routine and of asking the future self, because the future self does have your answer. Future self, in my context, I think is the same as intuition. We talked about the local intuition being the voice of your past self. I truly, in my opinion, think that your intuition, your non-local intuition, is your voice of your future. So that is, anyway, that's the way I think of it. You can just think of it as intuition. So we can ask our intuition, our future self, for guidance. To this point, when we've spoken about intuition, it's been more in the receiving mode, noticing when we're getting hits. Is this intuition? Is this not? Noticing things that come up, especially if you did the coordinates exercise. And then talking about when we recognize and notice and follow our synchronicities. So then once we've started doing the work on our beliefs, recognizing that intuitive voice, right? We talked about that last time. That was huge. What does the intuitive voice sound like when we hear it versus when it's one of our parts, mainly that director part? that's trying to control things in our life and protect us. So we learned the difference between the two voices. So that was last session. If you haven't caught up on it, we talk about the differences in the voices. So started cleaning up our beliefs. We started understanding, the science of intuition. It's real, it's here. How do we tap into it? We started noticing hits. We've shared stories of times that we've listened or maybe haven't listened. So we all know that it's real. We've done the work of learning to center and gain that inner awareness so that we can find a space to hear our intuition from. So we're well versed now. I think you guys can get it now. So asking for guidance helps you to determine your own truth. So it's really a fundamental step in trusting and moving into our authentic self. Remember, we talked about this it's like an infinity symbol to me. It's this reinforcing loop that when you don't trust yourself, you don't really hear your intuition. And when you don't hear your intuition, you're like, wow, can I really trust myself? I don't have any guidance here. But when you start to trust one, you start to trust yourself, your intuition comes online, you start to trust your intuition more, you hear it more, and you're like, oh, that's cool. And then that reinforces your trust in yourself. So it's just this beautiful like biofeedback loop that then continues. So, and I think that this is the point we all wanted to get to with this course, which is having the ability to ask for direction, to ask for guidance, and to trust. So it's really fun when we notice a hit, but it's way more fun and useful when we can proactively use our intuition in our personal and our professional lives. So when we're looking for guidance, we want to have a framework to utilize it. We want to have a framework to utilize when we're asking for guidance. We're going to use one that addresses the two main blocks that we have when we're asking for questions and when we're hearing answers. So the first block that we have is unclear questions. So you don't know exactly what you're asking. It's either too general or has too many layers to it, right? Remember, the intuition talks to us in pictures, in words, in brief phrases, in synchronicities, right? It's not going to come back to you with a dissertation. So if you have like a question that's like, I don't know if John likes me and maybe he's still stuck on Amy, and well, you have all of these layers to your question, your intuition's like, dude, what do you want guidance on? Right? So or if you don't get clear, you might get answer to one part of your question that's meant for another part of your question, and it's very confusing. So it's really super important to get your questions very, very, very clear. It's best to ask one thing at a time and to know exactly what you need that guidance on. And that is kind of the other block, is that sometimes you don't even know what you need the guidance on. So the system that will work through, the framework that will work through, will help you to clear up what you actually want to ask. And then the second block that we have is that you want it or you fear it. So it's either one of the two. You either are already super attached to the outcome that you want your intuition to tell you, right? Like, please tell me that it's John, right? Like you get super attached to that outcome, or you're afraid of what the answer could be. You're like, no, don't let it be John. I don't know why I'm saying John, but whatever, you get the point. So it definitely clouds the info coming in, right? So you need to get real clear and honest with yourself on both your conscious wants and avoidances and your subconscious, maybe even your unconscious, things that you don't want to happen, the answers you don't want to get. So like anything else, we're going to build awareness. We're going to build awareness of what it is that you really want to ask, awareness of any attachments that you have to the outcome, whether that be what you want it to be or what you don't want it to be. And so I'm going to send this exercise. I have it written out. I think if you've worked with me, you probably have it already, but I'm going to send this exercise in today's homework so that you're going to always have access to it. You can fill in the questions, you can utilize it, but I'll walk through quickly what the steps are. And then we're going to spend some time, not a lot of time, because you guys know me. I don't want my centering exercises taking up my entire damn day. We're here, we're in, we're getting the answers, we're out. So we are going to do a slightly different centering technique that allows you to ask your questions from the right place, which is your heart space. This is where we're gathering our information. We should probably ask for our information from there too. So the first step in the framework is to get clear on the question. So you're going to journal or meditate. I know. journal or meditate. I find journaling to be the most effective for me personally, but whatever works for you. And what it's going to be a set of questions. So when you get this exercise, you're going to see some questions. Some of them are, what is it that you truly want or need guidance on? What is really holding you back? What is the real root of the problem? What are you unclear about that if you had clarity would allow you to move forward? So we're going to write down the answers to these questions. We're going to journal on it. And then we're going to get super concise in our question. We're going to ask our intuition a very clear, very concise, one piece of information question, right? So that your intuition knows what it's trying to answer. And when you get the response, you're not confused as to what part of your question it's about. Hopefully that makes sense. So you've gone through these questions and now you've gotten real clear on what your concise question is going to be. The second step is to get real honest and lock and key. So the questions that you would ask here, this is getting honest. This is seeing the things that you want and that you don't want. The first is, how do you feel about the question or the topic in general? Do you already know what you want the answer to be? If so, what is it? Write it down. If you could have it your way, no judgment or consequences from anybody, what would the answer be? What are you scared the answer will be? What are you afraid of finding out? Once you have these questions, we're going to visualize. We have to use a visualization technique. There's really no other way here. You're going to visualize taking all of these answers, right? And we're going to just place them. We're going to ball them up and we're going to place them into a lockbox and we're going to close the lid. And we're going to sense, we're going to see, we're going to feel them in this box. And we are just going to lock it and push to the side out of our direct line of sight. So, woo, we've just locked it up. We have closed it. We have thrown away the key. And then on the science side, we've become aware. We've made the subconscious conscious. We've become very aware of what we want the answers to be, so that at least if we get that out and in the open and we attempt to place them to the side and become real clear, then we have a more clear channel coming in so we can notice our biases. So once you have these answers, so we have the answers, you've moved the box. Now we're ready to do the centering and asking technique. So you've gone through the process, you push the box to the side, you are going to go through your centering technique, and then you're going to ask from this centering technique, you're going to ask your question from your heart space. And then you're going to sit like we did with the coordinates exercise. You're going to sit and you're going to wait, see what comes up for you. And again, it could be any of the clairs. It can be a picture. It can be a word. It can be a voice. It can be a feeling. It can be any of the sensations. So you've created this space for the information to come in. So we have 20 minutes, which is really good. I was hoping we could do the centering exercise. Are we all up for that? So I keep calling them centering exercises because I don't want you to think they're meditations, because they're not. They are not meditations. I should probably come up, this is an asking. How about that? It's an asking exercise. So I'm going to go on, I'm going to go off camera actually, so that you guys can focus. We're going to start the same way that we did before, which is to close our eyes, or if it's more comfortable, to keep them softly open. Just take a few deep breaths. Breath in. You find it to be helpful to pause at the top. And then breathe out. Take a few more breaths. So the point of this exercise is to learn to ask questions from our heart space. So you may have a question today that you want to ask, or you may just be using this to get into the practice of feeling what it feels like to ask from your heart. So I am sure that there is a lot of thoughts going on in your mind right now. It's pretty typical. I want you to picture a bright sphere, about 2 inches around, in the center of your mind, center of your brain. Let's call it that. center of your brain. For those of you that are more tactile, more energy, this ball is not just bright, it is also magnetic. And I want you to feel your thoughts being pulled into this bright light that is also magically magnetic. And you can feel your thoughts becoming very, very centered and gathered and kind of sticking to this growing ball of light. Kind of like it's vacuuming in up there too. So just go ahead and take a moment and pull all of your thoughts in. Once they're all gathered, we're going to move down to where we should actually be asking our questions from. We're going to move that ball of questions, of thoughts to our heart space. So I want you to picture this bright magnetic ball that is now probably bigger than your head because we have a lot of thoughts. And I want you to picture it moving down through your throat. And it's settling in your chest space, in your heart space. Can you feel the difference? You feel your head is lighter. Can you feel that the energy is now in your heart space? I want you to ask a question. It can be a really simple question, but I want you to practice now your thoughts, where you ask your thoughts from, this magnetic, bright, shining ball. It's down here in your heart. Practice asking a question from that space so that you don't feel the question from your head, you feel it coming from your heart. This is where we should be asking all of our important questions, because this is where our information comes in, from our intuition and from the world around us. So use this anytime that you're feeling overwhelmed and you want to find an answer. You want to find out what you really think. You want to find out some guidance from your intuition. You can slow your day down and come here. Practice gathering up all those thoughts from your head and moving them into your heart space where they actually belong. And you can actually feel the difference of asking your question from your heart as opposed to your head. Feels very connected. And as you're ready, start to come back and open your eyes. Start to go back on video. So hopefully you guys were able to feel the difference. Were you able to feel the difference at all of asking a question or feeling the thoughts in this bouncing around instead of here, being able to move into your heart space, calms down, quiets down a little bit. And that in this exercise is where you would go and ask your question. And so at this point, you've centered, you've brought your thinking to your heart center. The heart center is where you ask your question from for your intuition. And then just like whenever we did the exercise with coordinates, we're just waiting for the information to come in. We're not forcing it. We're allowing it. We're noticing it. We're not judging it. We're writing it down for sure. And it might make sense absolutely right away for you. It might give you the guidance you're absolutely looking for. It may give you something that makes a little bit more sense a few days, a few weeks down the road. So that's the tricky thing with intuition sometimes is sometimes, the information we get isn't exactly obvious in the moment, but it's always for us. So hopefully you guys found that helpful. I really like to wrap up on this one specifically because I know that the promise of the course is to use your intuition. And this is truly, for me, the way that I other than noticing my synchronicities and following them, that is probably the biggest way that I move forward. But absolutely, this has been the biggest part of my development, is being able to come to this place quiet and ask my intuition, my future self, for an answer or for guidance. So that's what I have for you guys. So we have about 13 minutes left. If anybody has stuck around, I was hoping we could maybe just open it up. I don't know, Lorna, can you open up everybody's, unmute them, give them the access to chat, whatever it is.
Yes, you guys now have access to unmute yourselves.
Amazing. So yeah, would love your feedback. Like, what on the course was it what you expected? What did you learn that was new or different that you haven't maybe heard before? What would you like more clarity on? Any feedback be helpful.
I'll go. I definitely love the future self avatar exercise, although I haven't completely finished it. But I think it's really cool and like having the cape. I'm definitely gonna start using it more.
Did you come up with one?
No, I'm still trying to figure it out. I kind of I have like crystal things,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe like something similar to the rock. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Good. Yeah, no, we haven't worked on that together. So good. I'm glad
Yeah.
that was helpful. Did it make sense? Was it clear what we were trying to do, which is?
Yeah, absolutely. And something that came up for me whenever you were talking was kind of related, but like talking about your future self. So an example of like what I did with this, I've been in this position at work for a year now, but for months before getting my position, as when I got a promotion, I would drive to work and I would literally say out loud, I am the associate director of financial aid. And there were a lot of other people up for the position too. I didn't know if I was going to get it, but I would like try to feel what it would be like and imagine like having my office and like everything that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm the associate director.
How about that? Amazing.
Yeah. So it definitely works. It definitely does.
It definitely works. Yeah. And it kind of like takes out some of the fear, right? As you were walking into your interview.
Yeah, but I really like having like the avatar, the visual that you like to create one. I can't wait to get on that app and play around with it to get one.
Awesome. Good luck. Anything else? Anything you'd change? Anything that maybe you want more information in, or like anything that maybe I could back off of a little bit that maybe I went too in depth on?
I don't think so. I wish we had more time.
I know. I think that is my biggest learning, is that I'm going to have a lot of pre-recorded content. I do think the lives are helpful. Let me ask you guys that, like, if we had opened this up more and we had time, I kind of bounced back and forth on if there would be a lot of interaction, because, a lot of the stuff we talk about is, pretty, personal. So wondering if that would be something as I build out the next course. And as I think about time and how much time to allocate, do you think that that's something that you guys would utilize is more interaction with each other?
I think so. I think it helps people too, when you're actually like verbalizing stuff and talking it out, that it's helpful with other people than just having those thoughts in your head and kind of being like quiet and.
Okay. And so do you think live, and anybody else can like chime in or drop your thoughts in the chat, but I know another thing, and I'm completely on the fence with this, is a lot of times when I join a program, there's a group, and it's either in Facebook or it's, I would picture more building it directly onto an app, so that if you're already going to a website to learn, you're going to be with your group there. But thoughts on a group outside of the group? Is it too much? Is it something that people utilize? Or so it would be somewhere that you could talk to each other outside of our time together. So you're messaging each other, you're posting to, for questions, et cetera. And I could drop in and check. Thoughts on that?
I like the idea of a group. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. You go.
I like the idea of a group because it also helps like kind of get my mind going, and take me in a different direction. Like sometimes I get into like, going down one path, and focus on that when I should be like thinking a different way. So I think that a group would be helpful.
Okay, good.
Kinda get me going, like thinking.
Okay.
I think it doesn't hurt to have like a Facebook group because like, for example, like Alex's group for
Mhm.
Sober Yoga Girls, like I'm not in there all the time because she posts so much stuff. So sometimes it can be a little overwhelming if there's like so much stuff.
Mhm.
But every once in a while when I have some extra time, like I'll interact. So I think it's good because there's some people that can spend more time in
Mhm.
those Facebook groups than others. And I think having the group's good.
What about, so I've thought about not everybody having Facebook or wanting necessarily to be in Facebook. Would it be better or worse to have it be on an app? Or if it's a website, let's say you go to my website to do your coursework, and then the chat feature is there for the group is there. Would that,
I think that's a good idea. I know Slack's becoming pretty popular. I keep getting
Mhm.
invited to Slack stuff.
I know.
But,
I have my feels about Slack, but
I don't use it all the time. I think on your website, probably that'd be cool. The other thing that I took, I'm going back and reading my notes that I took. And it's been coming up a lot, like just other people, like things that pop up on social media. And when you were talking about like the underlying beliefs,
Mhm.
instead of just like, everybody like saying, oh, change your thoughts, change your life. Like you can change your thoughts, but if your beliefs are not in line with that in congruence, then, you're not going to be able to manifest as much. So that's kind of something new for me because for the longest time, it's been about like, for me, it's been like, okay, thoughts and emotions, but not really like throwing the beliefs in there too, which it makes sense, but it's just not something that I was really like computing.
Got it. Does it make sense now though?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's really
Okay.
awesome.
Good. Yeah, I think that was kind of my point. Like I went really heavy on it last week, but I think it's just such a different way to think about how to show up. And I know that I need to spend more time on parts work. I know that has been the biggest help for people shifting beliefs and stuff. So I know that I need to build that out big time. I kind of didn't spend a lot of time on it. And I mean, if I'm being honest, it's because it's a big topic to cover. And I'm like, can I even cover it? But now that we're talking about it and doing some one-on-ones with you guys, I'm seeing, okay, I need to tackle it. It's really, really
I've
important.
never talked to anybody about parts work until I met you.
Yeah.
Like I don't hear people talking. I mean, anyways, for me, I'm sure that other people do, but it's just never come up for me.
Yeah.
Same, and that was incredibly helpful. I always thought that thoughts and beliefs were the same thing.
Yeah.
I understand that it's like completely two different things. And getting to the belief is like a lot harder than I thought it would be.
There's a lot more long-term.
Yep.
Yeah. You guys are definitely, as we're doing our one-on-ones, giving me more and more to think about how to make it more and more clear, like, to make sure that we're getting to the right beliefs and how to get there. So
Not that I haven't jumped in and shared enough over these last few weeks, but just to add to what everyone's saying, one of the biggest new things that like I learned from you was the difference between, okay, when it comes to beliefs, is that really yours though, or is that someone else's? Because we internalize the things that the conditioning we get, right? Like, no, of course it's my own belief that if I'm not where I want to be, it's because I didn't work hard enough and I didn't make the right decisions. I didn't take the right steps. I didn't network right. I didn't follow up properly. It was all me. I'm the problem. Hi, it's me. Taylor Swift wrote that song about me, right? And like going through this work with you, even acknowledging that a belief could not be mine, that I could just be holding on to something that's been force fed to me, and that there's an alternative way to believe, which is a way that actually fits me inside and works for me. That was a whole new concept. And it seems so simple, but until somebody presents it to you that way, you might never come around to that perspective on your own. So that was something that's been really, really helpful for me.
Yeah, no, and I know working with you and then yesterday with Tiffany, I'm not going to bring up what we talked about, but it was just so helpful to also notice that a lot of times when we're like, well, what are your beliefs? We tend to go right to like the really deep core belief of like, what does that say about me? And I'll just use myself for example. I'm like, oh gosh, it meant dad didn't love me, so I'm unlovable. And you know, a lot of times my reactions weren't really based on that. I mean, that might have been the wounded part that was removed, but you know, my antagonistic, my spicy personality, like, you know, I talked about like wanting to change, not knowing why I showed up with him so often the way that I did, being very snippy. That it wasn't like that deep down core belief about myself. It was more the belief about the world, the belief about how others, how I show up with others and interact with others, and how the world impacts me, but more so how I impact the world. So I need that you guys have given me a lot to think about, that it's not always just our core belief about ourself, but truly it's more almost like a level up. It's those parts, it's those protector parts that are really like, they're taking on the belief and they're like running with it. So
That's actually something that that came up for me too, Lorna. So, and just to give you an example of like how I used it. So when I did my my perfect day exercise with Brenda, like separately from this group training, after that, I was actually trying to come up with a way to incorporate that into my University 101 class that I teach my college students. It's college success. So I created a manifestation, like manifest your dream module. And I had the students do it. Like I had them centered. They wrote their perfect day. And, you know, that came up for me too. Cause it was like, sometimes we don't realize like our beliefs are not our own, or like, do you even want to be here? Do you want to be in college? Like, do you want to be an engineer really? Or is it like your parents or somebody else that's been pushing it on you? And I think a lot of people are scared to even like question that or do that. And like, I was even scared to do that with my students, because it's like, oh my gosh, what if I talk the student out of like dropping out of college, you know, but like, which could happen. And a lot of them came up to me after there and be like, wow, that was really weird. You know, like some people were like, that was weird. That was cool. But that really happened for me too, because it's like when you're writing your perfect day, like, and I explained to them, I'm like, sometimes we might have in our heads, like we want to be a pilot or an engineer, but then when you're actually writing down that day and like what that really consists of, you might realize like, oh, that's not what I want to do. You know, like I don't want to spend the rest of my life living my life like that every single day. So that was something that I really got from you, Brenda. So I'm like, oh, that perfect day, that actually makes a lot of sense to write it out, so you can like know, like, is that the life that I really want to live, or is it somebody else telling me you need to go to college and you need to be a pilot?
yeah, that's actually like one of the exercises I just didn't have time to do, which was going back through and really focusing as you're writing and rewriting your story. Like, or does any of this feel like it's not actually yours?
Yeah.
So that would be good to focus in on it. Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you guys. Oh, this has been so fun. I'm like sad that it's over. Oh, but I appreciate your feedback. I'm still going to send out, you know, I'm sure there's things that we could, you got the ones that are left, you guys are really open books, but you know, feel free to drop anything in to the questionnaire that I send out. Anything else that you guys want to share. And then I would absolutely love if you could do, oh gosh, not a referral. What is the word? Yeah, like a review. Yeah. Phil, you're here. If you can remind me of the word that I'm looking, testimonial.
Testimonial.
Oh, okay.
There's the word I'm looking for. Testimonial. I would really appreciate it. So thank you again, guys. And look for that email tonight. And obviously I'm going to stay in touch with you guys. So thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.